former frontline states that fought against apartheid, in South Africa, could not stand with Raila Odinga. So Raila Odinga lost 3/4 of the African continent just by supporting Israel. So that's number one. So I knew there was no way Raila Odinga was going to win. You cannot win when you are with Israel in Africa. You cannot win in the world today when you are with fascists and racists and genocidal lunatics in the world. You cannot win. So that's number one. Number two, Raila Odinga is a conman, a quintessential conman and a pathological liar, just like Ruto. Raila Odinga betrayed Kizza Besigye. On that basis alone, Raila Odinga demonstrated that he was not a true Pan-Africanist. A true Pan-Africanist has to be an honest man with integrity, has to be a man and woman who believes in the rule of law, who believes in the principle of constitutionalism, who believes on respect for human rights, who believes on the supremacy of the Constitution, which comes with the Bill of Rights. Raila Odinga does not believe on any of these things or in any of these things. So, in that context, Raila Odinga was going to export to Addis Ababa, to the AU, and to the AUC all the bad manners that he has learned and is perpetuating in Kenya. Number three, point number three. The glorious, heroic Gen Zs of Kenya went to the streets in 2024, June 25th. Our revolutionary Gen Zs mobilized, organized, and opposed the Finance Bill 2024. They mobilized, they protested, they took over parliament, and they stopped Ruto in his tracks. Ruto was in the process of implementing the most punitive IMF-imposed conditions of taxation without representation, of taxation without benefit, of taxation without rights, of being turned slaves in your own country. And after that happened, and Ruto was just about to be removed from his legitimate perch at the State House, Raila Odinga went behind the Gen Z's backs and did a deal, an evil contract, an arrangement with the abductor and the chief mass murderer in East Africa, the most corrupt man in Africa, the second most corrupt man in the entire world, William Kipchirchir Ruto, stood in front of the entire world at the KICC and announced that he was going to support Ruto. He didn't care that Ruto had murdered hundreds of Gen Zs after the protest, during the protest, and in days after that has perpetrated a systematic abduction of young people, disappeared them, tortured them, and continues to kill many of them. Raila didn't care about that. Raila didn't care about the real grievance that led to the Gen Z revolution. The fact that the Gen Zs, more than 65% of them, highly qualified, young with a lot of energy and vision, are unemployed. And there are no reasonable prospects that they will get employment. This year, next year, the year after, 10 years from now. That is not in the plan of these power barons, the bandits in Nairobi. And the Gen Zs could see that and said, look, we own the country. Kenya does not belong to William Ruto. Kenya belongs to 60 million Kenyans, 65% of whom are Gen Zs or younger. These are the owners of the country. These are the people that the future belongs to, not the renegades, not the old people that have looted and are going to die in a few years anyway. But no, Raila did not stand with the Gen Zs. Raila did not stand with the future. Raila stood with his stomach. Raila stood with his greed. Raila stood with his conmanship and arrogance and said he was going to join Ruto in cracking down on the critics of the government. That's point number 3. Having betrayed the Gen Zs in the face of a vicious, most humane and cruel, barbaric crackdown, having betrayed the Gen Zs who had shed blood while campaigning for their rights, having betrayed the Gen Zs that were just about to lead and overhaul a complete transformation of the Kenyan rotten political system, having betrayed the Gen Zs that were leading the revolution, Raila Odinga could not be elected in Addis Ababa, because that would be a bad betrayal for the entire Gen Zs in the African continent, which is probably 70% of the population of the African continent, billions of people. The African Union is supposed to be the body that symbolizes, that epitomizes the unity, even if it is rhetorical unity of the African continent, of the African people. And that unity is supposed to be unity of purpose. It's supposed to be unity of a vision for a freer, a more prosperous, a liberated African continent. It's supposed to be a unity of values or in values. Values of freedom, values of liberation, values of prosperity, values of love, values of everything good. It cannot be values of theft, values of looting, values of plutocracy, values of tyranny, values of barbarism, values of retrogression, values of primitivity, values of torture, values of abduction, which is what Ruto symbolizes in Africa today. Ruto is an existential threat to all the positive values that Pan-Africanists stand for. Raila Odinga is Ruto's chief facilitator in Kenya, in the African region. If you want to understand how Raila Odinga is so corrupt and a conman, look at even the way that he relates to the regional leaders of Africa.